Okay, welcome to Coffee with the Editor. I'm Gary Castor, News Tribune managing editor here, and we have a monthly gathering. Pre-pandemic, we would do it in coffee shops, but obviously, with the pandemic still going on, we're exercising some caution here, and are meeting virtually. So tonight, I've got a couple guests. The forum is designed to give an opportunity to have a conversation with these guests, as well as accept any ideas you have for coverage for the News Tribune, suggestions, criticisms. We welcome those type of conversations so that we can do better to serve you, the readers. So we'll get started here. So our first is going to be Molly Morris, our features editor, her magazine editor. So Molly will be joining us here in just a moment, and we'll talk a little bit about what she does and go from there.
Hello.
Hello, Molly. How are you?
Good. Can you see me?
I can see you. I can see you. So obviously, Molly is working remotely today. So why don't, Molly, you give us an idea of who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Wonderful. Well, I'm currently in my living room at my house in Columbia, so it's a little bit strange to talk to a screen again. But I, like Gary said, am the features editor at the News Tribune and also the Her magazine editor. I recently took over that role from Madeline LaRue, who, as we've seen in the chat, is now the engagement editor at the News Tribune. Prior to taking over these roles, I worked on the News Tribune design. I was the design editor the last few years and have been with the company about 7 years or so. So I'm kind of still getting my feet wet as design editor, or as features editor. I don't even say it right yet, as features editor and her magazine editor. So.
Okay. All right. Well, we're glad you're here as well. So for readers, so let's talk a little bit about the design editor function, what it was, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what she will be doing with her magazine and features. So as a design editor, she supervised a staff of 4-5 designers who help actually take the stories, the photos, put them together into the pages that are produced every night. So every Sunday front page, probably in the last 6 years anyway, Molly had a hand in it, if not covered it completely. So great team leader and great designer. So probably in the last year or so, she also, as design editor, was doing the flavor section fronts, the style section fronts, and she has a real affinity for feature design, especially, and we saw the opportunity to really use that. About a year ago, she started designing her magazine, and so we had some openings on the staff that allowed us to realign some duties among folks, and it was a great opportunity for Molly to go into a new role. And so let's talk a little bit about, as features editor, what actually you do.
Yeah, so as features editor at the News Tribune, we have a few weekly feature sections. That's the style section in the Sunday paper, the flavor section in Wednesday's paper, and also health in Tuesday's paper. So as features editor, I'm responsible for kind of compiling that content. Some of it we get submitted from people throughout the community. Some of it we produce in-house at the News Tribune. Some of it is from some syndicate wire services that we use. But I organize all that content, and I also design those sections, and on occasion I write stories for the section. So I have a hand in kind of every step of the process for those sections.
All right. So just a couple weeks ago, she actually published her magazine as editor as well as designer. There you go. So talk a little about what's in that issue, how that all happens.
I'm really proud of it. It was my first one as editor. So like Gary said, I've designed the magazine for about the last year. So I've been familiar with the process and the sort of work that goes involved in it. But this was the first time that I kind of planned the whole thing. So I I picked the theme and I wrote a story and worked with our reporter and photographer to produce the rest of the content as well as designed it. So the theme of this magazine is self-care, which I chose pretty much based on the craziness of the last year. There's a lot of chaos that's going on. So it was important to me that we take a minute and relax and focus on ourselves and do something good for our well-being. So that's kind of the thought process behind the theme of this magazine. It came out about 2.5 weeks ago or so, mid-March. Features a ton of great stuff. There was a lot of hard work from various people that went into this, but self-care things ranging from yoga to journaling to even caring for houseplants is all featured in here. So I think there's really something for everyone in a way to show yourself a little bit of love, relax, sit down, do something good for yourself that's healthy and not watching TV for hours on end. So
I clearly need to reread the houseplant story again, based upon the sad condition of the plants in my office. So, so the next issue, I mean, almost as soon as you drop that issue at the printers, you were starting on the next issue. So tell us about that.
We had a rough plan before this last one finished as far as what the next one, the May, June, Her magazine will look like. So we're really in the midst of getting our stories and content ready right now, and we'll start designing it a little bit later in the month. So the next Her magazine publishes May 12th, so look out for that. And it will have an art theme. So we have some profiles on local artists in the community. Also a story I'm working on about public art, which if you've seen, there's a new mural at McClung Park and some other stuff going on in the community. So there's really been a push lately to get more public art out in the community. It kind of increases the vibrancy of the community and gives it more of a creative, exciting, colorful feel. So that's something exciting to look forward to. We also will have a listing of some of the art classes that Jeff City offers. As I've been researching for this, I was amazed at how many opportunities there are locally to kind of get your hands dirty and create something. So that's exciting. So we have a lot of good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah. So let's pause here for a second, and just by way of housekeeping, if you have questions for Molly, you'll see on your screen there's a portion where you can raise your hand, and that will allow Madeline, who's working in the background feverishly, give her an opportunity to bring you on board. You can ask Molly a question or me a question. So Molly, as you get ready, and I'm just going to keep asking questions until someone else does. So Molly, so is there anything you need from readers? Any ideas or any help, maybe networking for this next issue or an upcoming issue?
Yeah, certainly. If you have any suggestions for any places in town for you to work on art or create anything or showcase art, please feel free to email me. My email is just Molly, MOLLY, @newstribune.com. Also, I'm accepting suggestions of people's art. So if you're a local artist and you like to paint or sculpt or what have you, feel free to send me pictures of your art to potentially be featured in the magazine.
Okay. All right. So how do you... Let's back up a bit. How do you decide what an issue is going to be about? I mean, you have 6 a year, correct? It's bi-monthly. Yep. So how do you decide, what issues are going to be?
That is a really great question that I'm still kind of figuring out the answer to. Yeah. For this one, I was initially inspired by the public art story. We have in the weekly style section have resumed the on display column, which every week features a different artist and walks through their background in art. But through kind of collaborating with some people on that, I learned that there's been a push lately for more public art in the community. So I thought this theme was a great way to showcase some of the hard work that's being done locally. For this issue, that's where that idea came from. Sometimes it's just what is interesting me at the moment and that I hope will interest other folks as well. But I certainly welcome theme ideas as well as story ideas for future magazines.
Okay. And let's give just a little bit of a hat tip to your staff. Kind of walk through who helps put Her magazine together. Well,
as obviously it's a collaboration with the News Tribune editorial staff. So reporter is Nina Todia, who also sits on the design desk. So she wears many hats at the News Tribune. She writes a lot of the feature stories for the newspaper as well. And she does a fabulous job interviewing and writing stories and helping me brainstorm for things for the magazine. So her and I are the two main reporters for the magazine. Photography is primarily Liv Pagiarino of the News Tribune staff. Julie Smith also helps out as well, depending on assignments. And then I do the line of the magazine.
Okay. All right. Well, Molly, is there anything else you want to share with us before we move on to our next guest?
No, I think we hit on all the highlights. We're working really hard to put out this next magazine, and I hope you enjoy it. And I always welcome any comments or questions or concerns or anything you may have to better the product.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, her magazine is available. It is inserted into our News Tribune on its publication day, but it's also available around town right now. So you can go to places like Hy-Vee and a variety of other businesses I know around town that have copies of it. You can come downtown to the News Tribune office at 210 Monroe and pick a copy up if you haven't gotten one. And then the website for her magazine is
hermagazinemidmo.com. So you can flip through the PDF version so you can actually see the pages on our website. One other thing to add, if you are a digital subscriber of the News Tribune, we are adding her magazine now to the end of the replica edition on the day it releases. So that allows us to have some video enhancements and photo galleries and some extras that you may not get to see elsewhere.
Okay. All right. Well, Molly, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks.
All right. So as Madeline feverishly works the knobs behind this computer, she's going to bring up our next guest. It's going to be Diane Gillespie, our Jefferson City Convention and Visitors Bureau Executive Director. So again, well, let me just repeat, if you have a question for myself or Diane, on the right side of your screen, you can raise a hand and also send a chat, and we will ask Diane those questions. So Diane's about to join us. Diane, if you click the button that shows the camera on the bottom of the screen, I think we'll be able to see you.
How about that?
Hey, there we go.
How are you guys?
We're good. How are you?
Doing okay.
Good.
It's kind of odd talking in the evening time.
It is. It is.
But you had your coffee. How smart. I didn't bring my cup of coffee with me.
I go very far without that cup. Let me just tell you.
Good. Very good.
So thanks for joining us.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about, your history, what brought you to Jeff City. Just kind of give us an idea of who you are.
Okay. My family and I moved here in July of 1999. My husband accepted a position with the Missouri Chamber of Commerce as their VP of Governmental Affairs. And he came up here for about 6 months until our daughter and I joined him in July. At that time, when I was in Springfield, I was with the Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they allowed me the opportunity to work out of our home and continue working with them. I was in the sales department, so came up here calling on the state associations and state government workers, trying to bring their conventions to Springfield. So it was kind of a natural fit. I was usually up here once or twice a month anyway. So I continued with that until January of 2013, when I took over the position as executive director of the Jefferson City Convention and Visitors Bureau. Okay. So I've been with them for, it's hard to believe, 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, oh my gosh, so much has happened in 8 years. But yeah, I've enjoyed being back in the community and working really in the community and feeling like I'm bringing something to our community.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about how the Convention and Visitors Bureau is structured. So your staff, how it receives funding, such as that.
Sure. We are funded by a lodging tax. And what that is when visitors come into our city and they stay in a hotel, they have their room rate, and then when they'll notice the receipt, it will say a lodging tax, and then it'll have your city and county taxes. So our tax is 7%. And of that 7%, 3% of that goes to funding of the CVB, and the remaining 4% goes to the Conference Center Fund. And that's the fund that continues to grow, that we will bring Conference Center to Jefferson City in the future. As for our staff, there's 6 of us. We have 2 in the sales side of it. We have a new gentleman, Greg Hall, joined us in October as our sports sales manager. Crick was formerly with the Y here in town, so many years of working with the sports groups. Sports has become a big market for us, especially during this pandemic. That's kind of what's keeping the hotels busy, because everybody can still be outside, have those events. The Link has been very, very successful in hosting several basketball tournaments and other ones that are coming over to that area, so it's been beneficial to us. Jordan Rolls is our group sales manager. She works with convention groups coming into town and also to the motor coach business. So that's been a little bit tough, but things are starting to come back around. Then our newest member is Alex Bobbitt, and Alexandra, we call her Alex, came on as our communications manager and film projects that take place mainly over at MSP. And then we have, who am I forgetting? Brianna Murphy, excuse me. She is our office coordinator and social media coordinator. And then we have Sheila Sanford, who is our prison tour coordinator. So that's the 6 of us. I will say we all pitch in and help where needed and make the adjustments as needed to make the events happen here in the community.
Yeah. So 2020 was a bit of a challenge for the tourism industry. So let's kind of talk about that. I mean, what effect did you see as the local CVB person as well as statewide?
Yeah. So, 2020 was going to be a record year for us. All the numbers were headed in the right direction. We were really moving right along until mid-March, and then we took a dive. The hotels, we're fortunate that they have not closed. Being the capital, we were able to hold on because we had some of the National Guard folks and SEMA and FEMA folks that were coming into our city and using our hotels. And that's probably what held us together the longest. But when you look statewide, our occupancy was 28.6% decrease for the state of Missouri. Here in Jefferson City, we were at 22.3%. And that's a huge hit. And from all the research that I've been involved with or reading about, is that they are saying things should turn around in June and start looking better for us. But our ADR, which is our average daily rate for the hotels, is probably not going to come back until 23, 24.
Why is that?
They just think it's going to take that long for groups to be able to book business, because there's a lot of groups out there that are concerned if they book an event, our people come to it. So the hotels are having to go in with lower rates to try to be an attraction to bring the people to your hotel. So, it's kind of a guessing game at this point. I do know that I think we've had a pretty good March here in Jefferson City. Our revenues are 2 months behind, so we will not see our revenues from March until May. So I will be anxious to see how those come in. But I'm feeling like we've made the curve and we're moving forward. We also operate the tours over at MSP. We had to shut those down. We were shut down from March through the 1st of June. So we completed our first month of this year's tour season, and we had right at 1,588 attendees. So we were pretty pleased with that. Most of the tours that we had were filling up. So we do think that people are ready to get out and get traveling and come see us. So we were hoping, we were talking in the office today that we were so surprised that we had so many visitors this past week from Wisconsin, and that has been a huge market for us, and they're driving down here.
Wow.
So you look at all the states surrounding Missouri, we're pretty accessible to getting here.
Yeah. So when you look at conventions versus tourism, like MSP, like the basketball tournaments, things like that. What's on the pie chart there, if you were making one, how much of the, and just ballpark, I mean, how much of it are you really, is it like 50-50 that accounts for the revenue that sustains your efforts?
The revenue from MSP, we separate that from the lodging tax. So we have two separate accounts going. They are about a 50%, pretty equal to what we generate. MSP may be a little bit higher. Right now, I have to say that the sports side of it is carrying a high load right now. Yeah. Before, where we're at on the convention side of it, Gary, is that we're so limited on the amount of meeting room space that we have. We are just lacking on that end. Capitol Plaza has the largest space, and when that's full, there's smaller groups that can come in, but those larger groups, we're kind of limited as to what we can handle on that end of it.
Sure. Which kind of leads to one of our first questions we have. I mean, obviously that convention space would be addressed with MSP redevelopment, should that progress. So do you know when, Mary is asking, do you know when phase one of the MSP redevelopment is expected to be completed?
I do not have that answer. I do know that things are moving along. Mr. Parmalee with Chesterfield Hotels is still very interested in the project. He has a few hotels that have taken a pretty good hit, but they're also coming back. So he's definitely still wants to be a player over at MSP, and I know the discussions with the city are continuing. Yeah. So I think even with the delay, I think we're still going to be able to move forward.
Okay. So for those who may not remember, so what are some of the elements of that redevelopment of phase one?
Phase one was the hotel and then the convention center. And then I think it had some retail included in with it, maybe some housing at some point. But then also came up about the 2 sheets of ice as being another piece to that redevelopment. And I'm excited about that. I think that's a niche market that we have in this community that I'd like for us to be able to hold on to. And I think it could be an exciting attraction to that whole development area.
Sure. Yeah. So you had mentioned kind of prospects for this year. So what are some of the events that we might be looking forward to this year as the state starts opening up a bit more?
Well, May is always a very busy month with it. And again, it's turning into be a very good month for us. Shelby Fest is planning to come back here, and it will be here May 7th through the 9th. They are going to be headquartered over at the courtyard, but they're still going to do their downtown event on that Saturday, where we block off High Street, have all the cars parked along there, and do some of those activities. So that's exciting to have them coming back on board. I think it'll be a bigger and better event because I think people are looking for things to come and attend to. Then we have the Missouri State High School Athletes Association State Track Championships, and those are moving forward. They're going to look a little different. They're actually going to spread it out over 5 days. So it will be the weekend of May 21st through the 22nd and May 27th through the 29th, and they will do one class per day. Oh. So we were a little concerned that we were going to lose some hotel rooms off of that, but we're finding out that the groups are coming in and at least staying one night. So we think our hotels will get some business off of it, and we are working with Misha on how we can make it all happen over 5 days. And that'll be over at the Atkins Stadium. Jefferson City Public Schools is a huge partner in bringing that event to Jefferson City. So I think our restaurants will see some business and our retail, and I think it'll be 2 great weekends in our community.
Yeah.
So those are what's happening in May. June, we have the Great Escape Triathlon is an event that's looking forward to happening. There's some smaller baseball events happening, and all that can be found on our website. Visit jeffersoncity.com under events. And there's general events, and then there's also sporting events that are listed.
Okay. So when you talk about folks coming into town, so obviously the hope is they'll spend some money here eating, they'll spend a night. I mean, is there a round number to talk about when a tourist comes here, what we expect they bring into our economy?
Well, let me run some numbers. Let me share some numbers with you. Hold on, I got a number for you I can give to you. I have all my little cheat sheets here, and now I can't find the one I want. Hold on a minute, Gary. Hold on.
While she's looking, I will say, so again, you can raise your hand, you can ask some questions. If you have any suggestions, even off topic of tourism, about things we should be doing at the News Tribune, it's always appropriate to ask. We want to do better at what we every day, so we welcome any suggestions, feedback, things such as that. So you can give me an email at gary@newstribune.com if you don't want to do that in this forum. So
our number, so we get these numbers from the Division of Tourism and through the next codes. And for Cole County, the spending in for this would have been FY20 was $143 million, $143,820,142. So that comes in, and employment-wise, we're at 3,742. We generated property tax of over $2 million generated into the community. So, you look at hotel-wise, you can use, even if you just set $100 per room, and then you add on meals, breakfast, you're at $10, and then lunch, you could add that in another $10, and you could do dinner at, say, $25. Right there, you're at $45 for food, and that's pretty on the low end. Yeah. And then you add $100 in for a hotel room, which is kind of on the low end. You're right at the $150 mark that each visitor is going to spend, and that starts counting up. And sure. What people need to understand is that when visitors do come into our city, they are spending money, which is generating taxes, and that allows the city money that they can go out and do the street repairs and provide services to the residents of Jefferson City. So it's new money coming into our community that we can use for our projects in Jefferson City.
Yeah. Good point.
And I know sometimes people don't quite understand tourism versus a new industry or a new manufacturing company coming in. But we are an economic engine for Jefferson City. And right now, with everything that's going on in the economy, we're probably the ones that are going to help jumpstart the economy in our city with tourism versus anything else.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I got a couple questions here. So Mike asks, how extensive will the bicentennial events be? Obviously, state's celebrating its 200th year of forming. And so what do you know that's going to be planned for this year?
Well, so that's kind of been a moving target with everything that's been going on with COVID. I feel sorry for that whole committee. I'm involved with it. It's kind of like figuring out what to have. So the Salute to America event that will take place here in Jefferson City will have a bicentennial theme. So some groups are working on that piece of it. Then come August the 10th, Statehood Day. We're still trying to piece that all together, but there will be an event at the Capitol. There will be some music involved with it, some speakers. The night before, there will be inviting some of the past governors and legislators in for a dinner. And then I believe the Bicentennial Bridge dedication will be taking place sometime that day also. There will also be an ice cream social that Prairie Farms will be sponsoring, and that will be over at Central Dairy, and they're going to, I think, serve birthday cake, ice cream, and the first 200 people will receive a free cup, and then after that, it's $1 for ice cream.
Okay.
So those are a few things that I do know for sure. There is a website, Bicentennial 2021, that you can go to, and they may be working on the calendar of events right now, putting it into an easier format to for people to be able to use. But that will keep a complete list of all the activities that are happening.
Okay. So I have another question for you. So the 6 tournaments held at the link in February, this person says, had an estimated $230,000 in impact on Jefferson City is what she's heard. So how important are Parks and Rec programs, facilities, and programs to CVB in generating income for the city?
Extremely important. Us at being the CVB, we do not own any facilities. So for us to be able to bring these events into Jefferson City, we have to have a relationship with Parks and Rec. And for them to be willing to use their facility for these events, just the tournaments, they are extremely important to us. I know Craig in our office works directly with Aaron over there at Parks and Rec to coordinate events. They have a new event coming in, I believe in April. It's a judo tournament, and they already have people coming from, I know, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Kansas, from all over, and this will be the first year for this tournament. So that is extremely important, and Parks and Rec is extremely important to us. They make it happen. They have great facilities. Their clients love them. We were able to pull a few events from Columbia due to the guidelines that they had in place, that they weren't allowed to have some of these events. We were able to pull them down to Jefferson City, and several of them will stay here in the community. And a lot of it is because of the working relationship that they have Parks and Rec, and how Parks and Rec pretty well never said no and always said, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes.
Well, and you pointed to the link as one example.
Yes.
That's been a big addition to the community.
Absolutely.
Riverside Park with the amphitheater coming.
We're very excited about it. So the Riverside Park area, one of the events that we have coming up Labor Day weekend will be the Peddlers Jamboree. They were scheduled to be here Memorial Day weekend of 2019. No, I'm sorry, 2020. And then, of course, that had to cancel. And that is a biking group that will start out in Columbia on the Katy Trail, ride the Katy Trail over here to Jefferson City. And they're actually, instead of having it Memorial Day, they felt that maybe that was a little close to everything going on, that maybe they'd be better off trying to move it to Labor Day weekend. And they're actually going to go over to Riverside Park and use the new amphitheater and camp out parking in the park area over there, but they'll also be staying in hotel rooms that will have shuttle service. And they're expecting maybe up to 1,500 people in for that event. So we're excited about the amphitheater, what possibility it could bring to our community. And, they've redone so much of that park, Riverside Park, that it looks so great right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the Katy Trail, obviously, our proximity to that. That's a great feeder for a segment of tourism.
Absolutely. We hosted, Missouri Life hosted last fall 2 events. It was called the Double Cross that went on for 2 weeks. We housed them here over at Northern Access area, the Master Garden area. They camped over there. Came through 2 nights, and then they also did the Big Bam on the Katy Trail. And they are planning to come back for both of those events. We actually did a Katy Trail, Ride the Amtrak Katy Trail promotion last fall that would hopefully push people onto the Amtrak to bring their bikes and then hop on the Katy Trail if they wanted to. And we put some new signage over at the trailhead by the Katy Trail, directing people into Jefferson City. So we do see a lot of bike groups in the community, and I think that's something that will continue this year also. So it has become very important to Jefferson City.
Okay. So, and obviously with the pedestrian bridge there that obviously helps
Yes.
connect it to the city.
Yes.
With the Bicentennial Bridge that's being built will also help access maybe the waterfront, that whole area there.
Yeah.
What do you kind of see happening as that all goes?
Yeah, the Bicentennial Bridge, we are very excited about. We have people come into our office asking, how do we get to the river? And you have to try to explain to them where they need to go to get to the river. So being able to direct them to the Bicentennial Bridge, I think is going to be huge. And I think all the school groups that come in are really going to have, and it'll be a great opportunity for them to go down there. A lot of them look for locations that they bring their lunches and sit outside and eat.
Mm-hmm.
So that is another location that we can direct them to. I kind of thought that when the Missouri River was frozen in February, I thought how many people would be down there on that Bicentennial Bridge just to see that view.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it'll be great. I hope eventually we can access the other end of the Adrian's Island over by the prison, Lafayette, so that you could actually get onto Adrian's Island, walk all the way down to the bridge and to the Capitol, and that's all connected in the future.
Yeah.
I think would be great for us.
In your answer, you had mentioned students, and I almost forgot about, all those trips because of last year with COVID. It's not an uncommon sight to see the long lines of kids outside.
And all the yellow buses.
or outside Central Dairy waiting for their ice cream to get on. So,
but, we have seen some school groups coming back. Just in March, we've started getting calls. We've had a couple school groups and we have a few more on the books. So the schools are trying to get out. So, I feel like that's a good sign also.
Yeah. So we're well into spring now, despite the cold temperatures out there. So as we think about tourism outside of this area, going other places in the state, do you have any tips for tourists?
Get out and enjoy the communities in the state. One of the things that we've always, all along during this whole thing, is that we said our community has to be healthy. Because the travelers have to feel confident that they're coming into a community that is safe, and they feel comfortable with that. We have many calls that when folks are booking their tours at MSP are asking us what lines are in place. And we will continue with what we're doing over there. We have not taken our tours back up to the full numbers that we were doing before the pandemic. We're still being conservative on our numbers. We're still recommending the social distancing. Masks are suggested if they want them, and hand sanitizer. Our tour staff usually put their mask on when they're inside the buildings, and once they get outdoors, then they will remove those. So just showing that we have those safeties in place, I think does help. And I think I know for myself, when I look at traveling, my daughter lives in Annapolis, Maryland, and my husband and I are talking about flying out to see her next month. And we feel like we will be okay. We've gotten both vaccinated, and we will put our mask on and we will go. And I think that's what people are looking for. They're ready to get out and go do things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of demand for
and that's what some of the seminars that I've participated in, that they're like, everybody is going to get hit very hard and be prepared. And one of the concerns that we were having, I was on a call today, is that it's the workforce, and the restaurants are having a hard time finding employees. And I've heard a couple of them are looking at maybe having to cut their hours to be able to keep the number of employees they have working, and close down a little earlier to be able to accommodate those. So it's kind of a tough situation out there on that side of it.
Yeah. Have someone ask, they say a variety of groups in town are interested in, quote, heritage trails like historic homes, LU, famous LU professors, Civil War, early Americana, etc. Does CVB have any interest in something like this?
Historic City of Jefferson held I guess it was a Zoom call a while back, talking about different trails for the community. To be honest, it's been kind of put on the back burner. I will say, for what we have through the CVB, we had a walking tour that was mainly of the downtown area. We took that and we expanded it so it starts around Jefferson or around Broadway. I guess it was Broadway Street, and went east down to McCarty Street and High Street, kind of in that, I call it the Warwick Village area. I know that's not the name now. And we did work with Historic City of Jefferson on putting that together. We are finalizing that brochure right now, trying to pull a few more pictures together that talks about the homes along that area. There's some cemeteries. So we've got that walking trail piece going, and we are still having discussions with Historic City of Jefferson on what we can come to put together on that.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work of getting the right information.
Sure, absolutely.
You know.
Well, and certainly the city has a rich historic background.
It does.
That I'm always amazed by, just the interest among our readers in that. So I probably would play well. So.
Yeah, I think it would. You know, everybody wants the history. It's kind of become the new travel thing, and we have so much history here in Jefferson City. Yeah.
So one of those historic elements being MSP. So kind of give us an update, what you can, about MSP. The tours have started again. What condition are the physical conditions of the buildings after the tornado, things like that?
Right.
How extensive are the tours?
Sure. So we started back in tours in October of 19. We were able to open back up, and we did October, November, and at that time we did not have access to Housing Unit 4. So let me back up. You asked about the conditions of the buildings. So Housing Unit 1 had a large hole in that roof, and we repaired that. Housing Unit 3 had a few smaller holes. The state worked on fixing that one. And then Housing Unit 4 is the one that was the hardest hit by the roof was torn off a bit. So at that time, we did not have access to that site in 19. Then you come along 20, we opened up for 2 weeks and had to close down in March. And then in June, we were going to try to open up again. We visited with Office of Administration with the state, and they allowed us access to Housing Unit 4 because it had been cleaned up. They had come in and tore the trusses down and removed all the debris that they could. And we did a cleanup of Housing Unit 4 that we were allowed to at least go into the first floor. We could not go to the upper floors, and then we had access to the dungeon. So we did tours June through November with the full site, really. And did pretty well. Then that included, we also had a gas chamber, which did not receive any damage from the tornado. Then we come into March, we got closed, we opened up in June, and they allowed us to go into MSP, and we finished that. And then this year, we opened up and had access to Housing Unit 4, but we had to close it down a couple weeks ago. Because we had some plaster falling off the walls. And at that point, we just did not want to take the liability of somebody getting hurt. And we talked to OA, and they said, yeah, we need to shut down. So where we're at right now with it, we're working with OA. Invitation for bids have gone out for the repair work, and we have a pre-bid meeting next week to talk with contractors. The timeline is to start construction June 1st, with completion being October 1.
Construction of a new roof?
New roof, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now Housing Unit 4, it was the premier piece.
It's the premier piece of our site. It's the oldest building. It's the building that you could have events in because it was just had an open floor plan because the cells are built around the outside of the walls.
Yeah.
Out looking outdoors. So we were able to do gatherings in there when we did some of our ghost hunt events and that type of thing. So not to have that it's been hard to figure it out. But we've been able to continue doing that. So we have taken it off the tours right now.
Okay. So now 1920, my recollection was you guys discovered some older cells.
We did.
So
yeah.
What's the status of that?
They're completed.
Okay.
Centennial cells. They are located just to the south of Housing Unit 3. So we do have those included on the 3-hour tour, and they've been a big hit. We've also got the exercise cages that are up there in that area that the people can walk through also. And so we have a tour this Saturday that's a 3-hour and it's sold out. So it'll be fun to see the expression because we just got them started a little bit last year. They got up and going, so yeah. I think it'll be good.
So who for those who don't know, kind of give us an idea of what a tour's like. I mean, who are these people that are doing the tours? Why are they experts in this?
Yeah, so we have history tours, and most of the history tour staff worked at the MSP site at one point. So they all are able to share on the history, but they also have a lot of their personal stories that they include in the tours. So no tour is everything. We have those 2-hour and a 3-hour history tour. Then we also do a mystery tour, which is with one of the tour guides and a former inmate. And the guests get to actually hear two sides of prison life. From the guide tour staff, which worked there, an employee that worked there at the site, and from a former inmate. And what you find happening was this tour guide and inmate, they actually had built a relationship. And some of them even stay in touch to this day.
Wow.
And when you really think about it, MSP was a city. It was behind the walls and it was a community within itself. So anyway, those have been fun to have and people are enjoying those. And then we have the ghost tours, and the ghost tours have become a big hit. Now, I think it's the creepiest place to be at night. And
that was going to be my...
So Gary, you don't want to do a ghost tour with me?
Yeah. There's, you won't be seeing me there. So.
Yeah, the tour staff knows that I do not do well with those. And they kid me pretty hard. But anyway, we have a 2-hour, we have a 3-hour, we have a 5-hour, we have an 8-hour overnight tour there. And when people say overnight, you don't sleep. You are actually investigating the whole time during that time period. And those folks they love MSP. They are my paranormal group. Yeah. And they have the best time together and they have fun on the tours. And they provide some history of the site, but really it's about investigating and what you can find. We also, during those evening tours, we also have off-duty police officers that are there on site as security. And those guys have become part of the tour staff. So they have had fun with it. Yeah. And it gets pretty interesting at times.
So have we discovered paranormal activities there?
Oh, Gary, yes. There's a ton of stuff over there.
Thanks.
And I've actually experienced a couple of them. So, yeah, it's there.
All right.
Yeah. It's there, buddy.
Madeline was messaging that she's personally done the 2-hour ghost tour and she thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean, they're a great tour and it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
So
I'll get you signed up when you're ready.
Yeah, exactly. Just sign me up for the next one. We'll go together, Diane.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So MSP, obviously, I mean, I'm just floored by the number of people who tour the site.
Yeah.
At pre-COVID, I mean, 30,000?
We were almost at 34,018. And of that 34,000, 25% of them would spend the night in Jefferson City that we were able to track.
Wow.
So it is, it definitely has an impact on our community, our hotels, restaurants, and that area continues to grow.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else I've missed on the whole tourism horizon?
We're plugging along, and we are working on a new promotion right now. We hope to release it here in the next few days. But it's a promotion of getting out and promoting our local hotels and restaurants. And, even if people don't feel like traveling, make a vacation in your own community. Go stay at a hotel and eat in the restaurants and get out and enjoy our community. So we will be sharing that, within an area around Jefferson City, promoting folks to come in and see what we have to offer. So it's a fun video. I hope people enjoy it once they see it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great idea. I mean, it's, I will say my parents recently came to town, and because my house has a lot of stairs in it, it's actually more convenient for them to stay at the hotel because it's safer for them.
Right.
And so, I think it's a great opportunity for folks to really help support the local community. Because as you say, they'd really took a hit.
They have a big hit. They really have, yeah. But I'm so happy that they've all hung in there and are surviving at this point.
Yeah. Madeline makes note, while all CVBs have struggled over the past year, we had 2 years of that because of the tornado and then flooding and then hail and a fire at MSP. And then the pandemic. When's it going to stop?
Yeah, it's been I was telling Madeline that I was on a phone call with some other CVB directors, and they were kind of whining about the whole pandemic when it first started, the doom and the gloom, and, oh my God, we can't survive. And I said, I go, we've had tornado and we've had flood and we had a fire and we had a hailstorm. And they go, okay, Diane, we got it. I go, yeah. Yeah, May of 2019 that was a one on us here in the community. But, we've come out stronger, I feel, and good things are happening for us.
Well, I think some of it goes to the diversity of it. And we've talked about it. It's not just inside events. It's not just conventions.
Right.
There are outside events. There's a lot of new venues coming. There's that historic base that we're building on. So clearly your work's cut out for you, but you guys are doing a great job, and we appreciate all you're doing.
Oh, well, I thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Well, we'll wrap this up. So folks, again, if you have any questions for Diane or myself, go ahead and drop me an email. I'll be happy to get them to her. My email is gary@newstribune.com. And again, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.